Have you ever wondered why we live in a world of bosses, leaders, and governments? Why isn't everyone just equal? It might surprise you to learn that for most of human history, we were long before kings, queens, and empires. Our ancestors lived in small, nomadic groups where hierarchy simply didn't exist. There were no titles, no ranks, no one person holding power over another. Everyone faced the same harsh realities, hunted the same prey, and gathered the same foods. Survival was a collective effort, and in that struggle, everyone was on the same level. Life was raw, dangerous, and incredibly free. But this age of pure equality couldn't last forever. As our populations grew, something fundamental began to shift. We started to settle down, to farm, and to build communities. Instead of small bands of a few dozen people, we were now living in villages of hundreds, even thousands. And with that growth came new, complex problems. How do you distribute food fairly among so many people? Who resolves disputes when neighbors disagree? How do you organize a defense against outsiders? Suddenly, the old way of doing things, where everyone just figured it out for themselves, wasn't working anymore. This is the critical turning point in our story. Hierarchy didn't arise because one person suddenly decided to conquer everyone else. It emerged out of necessity. It was a solution to the chaos of growth. Think about it. When a large group needs to build an irrigation ditch or store grain for the winter, someone has to coordinate the effort. Someone needs to make sure everyone does their part and that the resources are managed properly. The people who were good at this, the best organizers, the most persuasive speakers, the wisest decision. This wasn't power in the way we think of it today. It wasn't about control or domination. It was about responsibility. These early leaders earned their status through competence and the trust of their community. People followed them not because they were forced to, but because following them made life better and safer for everyone. They offered order in a world that was becoming increasingly complex. In exchange for a little bit of individual freedom, the community gained stability, security, and the ability to achieve things they never could have on their own. This was the quiet, subtle deal that humanity made with itself. Over generations, this informal influence began to solidify. The children of respected leaders might inherit some of their parents' status, not through divine right, but because they were raised in an environment of leadership and learned the necessary skills. Traditions formed. Rituals were created to legitimize this new social structure. What started as a temporary, practical solution to a problem slowly became a permanent feature of society. The idea that some people were meant to lead and others were meant to follow started to feel natural. It became woven into our culture, our stories, and our very way of thinking. And this is the secret behind our modern world. Every system we live under today, from the company you work for, to the city you live in, to the government that runs your country, is a descendant of this ancient transformation. It's the product of that slow, quiet shift from absolute freedom to structured order. The world didn't change the moment the first king was crowned or the first law was written. It changed when we, as a species, collectively decided that the benefits of order were worth the price of equality. We accepted that some form of hierarchy was necessary to survive and thrive on a larger scale. So the next time you look at the complex structures that govern our lives, remember their humble origins. They weren't imposed upon us by force. They grew from our own need for cooperation and stability. We traded a world of pure, chaotic freedom for a world of predictable, structured order. And understanding that trade-off is the key to understanding who we are and how our societies truly work. It's a fascinating journey from the savannah to the skyscraper, and it all started with a simple, human need for order. The section 1 is a world of equals. Have you ever wondered what the world was like before kings, presidents, or bosses? Before anyone had power over anyone else? It's hard to imagine, but for the vast majority of human history, that's exactly how we lived. A world of equals. This wasn't a philosophical ideal. It was a simple reality born from necessity. Let's rewind the clock, way back. Picture small, scattered groups of our earliest ancestors, maybe just a few dozen people. Their world was raw, unfiltered, and profoundly simple. Their entire existence revolved around one thing: survival. Every single day was a mission. Find food, find water, find a safe place to rest before the sun went down. There were no grand plans, no 5-year goals, just the immediate, pressing needs of the present moment. In this environment, the concept of a leader, a ruler, just didn't make sense. Who would you rule? What would you rule over? There was no territory to claim. People were nomadic, constantly moving to follow the seasons and the animals they hunted. You couldn't own land because the land owned you, dictating where you went and how you lived. There were no stockpiles of wealth. You couldn't hoard food. Most of it would spoil. Whatever was gathered or hunted was shared and consumed almost immediately. There was no surplus. And without surplus, there's no foundation for power. Think about it. Power, at its core, is about control. Control over resources, control over people. But in this early world, there was nothing to control. Everyone had access to the same resources: the plants, the animals, the water from the stream. Your survival depended on your own skills, your knowledge of the environment, and your ability to cooperate with the small group around you. Sure, some people were better hunters. Others were more skilled at finding edible plants or knew how to make better tools. These skills were respected, of course. A strong, successful hunter was valuable to the group. A wise elder who remembered where to find water during a dry spell was indispensable. But respect is not the same as authority. Their knowledge earned them influence, but it didn't give them the right to command others. You might listen to the skilled hunter's suggestion on where to find deer, but you weren't obligated to follow. You made your own choice. Decisions were made collectively, or not. It was more of an organic, flowing process. If the group needed to move, the decision arose from a shared understanding of the circumstances. The weather is changing. The animals have moved on. It wasn't one person standing up and declaring, "We leave at dawn." It was a consensus born from mutual need. If someone disagreed, their options were simple. They could try to persuade others, or they could go their own way. There was no police force, no army to enforce a leader's will. The only enforcement was nature itself. If you made a bad decision and went off on your own, you faced the consequences alone. The risk of starvation or becoming prey was a powerful motivator to stick together. This was a world of profound, almost absolute freedom. You were free to do as you pleased. But this freedom came with an equally profound lack of security. Life was a tightrope walk. A broken leg could be a death sentence. A failed hunt meant the whole group went hungry. Danger was everywhere. Predators, disease, accidents, a sudden change in weather. Everyone, from the strongest to the weakest, faced the same fundamental uncertainties. This shared vulnerability was the great equalizer. It didn't matter how strong or smart you were. A venomous snake didn't care. A flash flood would sweep away everyone in its path. This constant shared risk created a powerful sense of interdependence. You relied on each other not because someone ordered you to, but because it was the only way to improve your fragile odds of seeing the next sunrise. Cooperation wasn't a moral choice. It was a survival strategy. Sharing food wasn't an act of charity. It was an investment in the group's collective well-being. If I share my catch with you today when I have plenty, you're more likely to share with me tomorrow when my hunt fails. It was a system of mutual support, an unwritten social contract that kept the group alive. This system, known as reciprocal altruism, is a cornerstone of human society, and its roots are right here, in this world of equals. So, this wasn't a utopia. It was not a peaceful, Garden of Eden existence driven by noble beliefs in fairness. Life was brutal, short, and fraught with peril. Equality existed by default, not by design. It was the natural state of things, when no mechanism for creating inequality had yet been invented. There was no private property to fight over, no stored wealth to steal, and no way for one person to compel another to work for them. Power simply had no place to take root. It was like trying to build a castle on quicksand. The social structure was too fluid, too mobile, too focused on the immediate present. Status was temporary and based on current abilities, not inherited titles or accumulated wealth. You were only as important as your last successful contribution to the group. This state of being, of innate equality, lasted for tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of years. It's the longest chapter in the human story. The hierarchies, the kingdoms, the empires, the complex societies. We see today very recent development in the grand scheme of things. The big question, then, is what changed? What happened to tip the scales? The answer lies in a revolution that would fundamentally alter human existence forever. The invention of agriculture. When we learned to plant crops and domesticate animals, everything shifted. Suddenly, we could stay in one place. We could produce a surplus of food. And with surplus came storage. With storage came the concept of property. And with property came the first real opportunity for inequality to emerge. Once you could own a field, a granary full of wheat, or a herd of cattle, you had something that others didn't. You had a resource that could be defended, inherited, and used to create leverage. You could pay others to work for you, to guard your property, to fight your battles. For the first time, one person's survival could become dependent on another person's permission. And in that moment, the world of equals began to fade, giving way to the complex, hierarchical societies we know today. Understanding this ancient world is crucial. It shows us that the way our societies are structured now isn't the only way. Hierarchy and inequality are not some iron law of human nature. They are creations, products of specific historical and technological developments. For the vast majority of our time on this planet, we lived a different way. We were equals, bound together not by rulers, but by the shared, fragile, and dangerous business of being human. The section 2 is Fear Brings Unity. Have you ever wondered why we, as humans, live in societies? Why we build cities, form nations, and rely on each other so intensely? It's easy to think it all started with love, friendship, or some grand noble idea of community. But what if the real story is much darker, much more primal? What if the very foundation of our civilization wasn't built on trust, but on terror? Let's rewind the clock. Tens of thousands of years. Imagine a world you wouldn't recognize. The climate is in chaos, swinging wildly between brutal ice ages and sweltering heat. The lush forests and sprawling savannas you might picture are shrinking, replaced by harsh, unforgiving landscapes. Food, once abundant, is now a constant struggle to find. Herds of animals migrate unpredictably or disappear altogether. This isn't just a tough environment. It's a world actively trying to kill you. And it's not just the environment. Out there, in the whispering grasslands, in the deep, dark woods, you are not at the top of the food chain. Massive predators, faster, stronger, and armed with claws and teeth, see you as an easy meal. Every shadow could be a threat. Every rustler in the bushes could be your last. In this world, being alone isn't just lonely, it's a death sentence. This constant, gnawing pressure, this ever-present danger, created the most powerful motivator in the history of life. Fear. Fear was the invisible hand that began to shape human destiny. An individual, no matter how skilled or strong, was fragile. A lone hunter is easily ambushed. A single person sleeping is defenseless. The chilling realization dawned. To be isolated was to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable was to be dead. So, humans began to drift towards each other. It wasn't about liking one another. It wasn't about compassion or a shared vision for the future. It was a cold, hard calculation of survival. It was pure, unadulterated necessity. Being with others simply meant you had a slightly better chance of seeing the next sunrise. This was the birth of the group, forged not in the warmth of a campfire's glow, but in the cold dread of what lurked beyond it. Slowly, these fragile alliances started to pay off. Cooperation, even when grudging, reduced the risk. A group could watch in all directions. While some slept, others stood guard, their ears tuned to the slightest unfamiliar sound. The chances of a surprise attack plummeted. Hunting also became a team sport. A single hunter might fail to take down a large animal, but a coordinated group could trap it, corner it, and succeed where one would fail. More successful hunts meant more food, more security, and a greater chance for everyone to survive. They shared the watch, they shared the hunt, and they shared the kill. This wasn't generosity. It was an insurance policy. Your contribution today guaranteed you a share tomorrow. The group became a shield, a collective bulwark against a hostile world. Fear was the glue holding them together, and for a time, it worked. The odds of survival were tipping, ever so slightly, in humanity's favor. But this new way of life came with a hidden price tag. The moment you depend on others for your survival, you lose something precious. Absolute freedom. Decisions could no longer be purely individual. If the group needed to move to find water, you moved with them, whether you wanted to or not. If the group decided to hunt a dangerous mammoth, you joined the hunt, because the success of the group was now your success. Your fate was tied to theirs. Imagine a crisis. A pack of dire wolves is spotted circling the camp. Panique erupts. In these moments of pure terror, something interesting happens. Some individuals react faster. Their minds don't freeze. They race. One person might shout, grab spears, form a circle. Another might see an escape route to the caves. Now, they aren't trying to be leaders. They're just reacting, their survival instincts kicking into overdrive. And what do the others do? They enlisten. In that split second of life or death, you don't have time to debate. You follow the person who sounds sure, the one with a plan, Because your own fear is telling you that listening is your best chance of living. You obey not out of respect, but out of a desperate desire to survive. This wasn't leadership as we know it. There were no titles, no votes, no formal authority. It was simply influence. Born in a moment of crisis, fear was making people accept direction from others. This dynamic began to repeat itself. The person who was good at tracking animals found their voice listened to before a hunt. The one who knew which plants were safe to eat was heeded when gathering. These weren't chiefs or kings, but their opinions started to carry more weight. Their influence wasn't granted, it was earned through demonstrated success. When following their advice led to a full belly or a safe night's sleep, people naturally started to pay more attention. On the surface, everyone was still equal. They shared the same fire, faced the same dangers, and ate from the same kill. But underneath, a subtle shift was occurring. A hierarchy of influence was quietly taking root. Certain voices were starting to matter more than others. The person whose plans worked was becoming more valuable to the group's survival. Their words held the power to sway the group's actions, to guide its path. This was the quiet, almost unnoticed, beginning of a monumental change in human society. The unity that fear had forced upon them had made them safer, stronger, but it also created a new kind of dependence. Not just on the group, but on the influential individuals within it. Equality was still the official story, but the unofficial one was being written in moments of panic and desperation. The very thing that brought humans together, Fira, was now planting the seeds of inequality and power. The foundation for leadership, for social structure, for everything that would come to define human civilization was being laid. It wasn't a conscious choice or a grand design. It was a slow creeping evolution, driven by the most basic instinct of all, the will to survive in a world that didn't care if you lived or died. The shift had begun, and humanity would never be the same again. The Section 3 is rules without writing. Have you ever wondered where rules come from? Not the laws written in books, but the silent agreements we all live by. It's a journey that starts long before cities, kings, or even writing. Imagine a world without any written rules. No laws, no signs, no contracts, just small groups of early humans trying to survive. Life was a constant struggle against hunger, predators, and the unknown. In this chaos, a new force began to take shape, something that would change humanity forever. Unspoken order. It all began with repetition. As groups became more stable, patterns emerged. Think of it like a daily rhythm. Certain people, maybe the strongest and quickest, were consistently good at hunting. Others, with keen eyes and patience, became the natural guards, watching for danger. And some, with a deep knowledge of the land, excelled at gathering edible plants and roots. These weren't assigned jobs. There were no meetings or discussions. It was simply what worked, a behavior, repeated day after day, slowly hardened into an expectation. You hunt, she gathers, he watches. It was simple, efficient, and understood by everyone without a single word being exchanged. But what happened when someone broke these unwritten rules? What if a hunter decided he didn't feel like it one day? Or a guard fell asleep on watch? The consequences weren't fines or jail time. They were immediate and real. If the hunters failed, the entire group went hungry. If the guard failed, a predator could sneak into the camp. The group's survival was a delicate balance, and every individual's actions mattered. Breaking the pattern didn't just cause annoyance. It caused genuine problems. It threatened the very existence of the community. Survival, the most powerful motivator of all, demanded consistency. And so, these habits, born from necessity, slowly transformed into rules. These weren't rules enforced by a leader with a weapon. They were enforced by something far more powerful in a small, tight-knit community. Social consequence. Imagine the feeling of letting everyone down, the silent disapproval in their eyes, the loss of trust, or the ultimate punishment, exclusion. In a world where belonging to a group literally meant the difference between life and death, being cast out was a fate worse than any physical punishment. The fear of being alone was the invisible hand that kept everyone in line. Through this process, early humans stumbled upon a profound truth. Order reduces chaos. Unwritten rules, as restrictive as they might seem, made life more predictable. When everyone played their part, you could anticipate where your next meal would come from. You could sleep a little sounder, knowing someone was watching over you. Resources were managed better. Food lasted longer. Dangers were anticipated more effectively. And just as importantly, conflicts within the group were reduced. When everyone knew what was expected of them, there were fewer reasons to argue. People followed these emerging rules, not necessarily because they wanted to, but because the stability they created felt so much safer than the terrifying uncertainty of absolute freedom. This shift had a subtle but massive side effect. The idea of pure equality began to weaken as the sense of obligation grew stronger. Before, everyone was theoretically free to do whatever they wished, whenever they wished. But now, that freedom was being traded for security. Your role in the group wasn't just a suggestion, it was your duty. The hunter felt the pressure to provide, the gatherer to contribute, the guard to protect. A structure was beginning to form, shaping individual behavior for the good of the collective. Your desires took a backseat to the group's needs. These early rules were incredibly simple compared to the complex legal systems we have today. They were probably as basic as share your food, help with the children, and don't endanger the group. But their impact was monumental. They were the first steps away from pure animal instinct and toward organized society. By accepting these small limits on their personal freedom for the promise of collective safety, our ancestors unknowingly laid the groundwork for everything that was to come. They were building the foundation of social order, quietly and permanently, in the bedrock of human habit. Think about how this legacy lives on. We still feel the pressure of social expectations. We queue in line without being told. We lowered our voices in a library. These are the modern echoes of those first unwritten rules, the silent agreements that hold our world together. The trade-off is still the same. We give up a little bit of our freedom for a lot of predictability and safety. It's a bargain humans made tens of thousands of years ago, and we are still living with the consequences, both good and bad. The moment humans accepted that limits could lead to safety, they made space for something else to grow. Control. It wasn't intentional, at least not at first. But once the principle was established that an individual's behavior could be regulated for the group's benefit, the door was opened for more complex forms of authority to emerge later on. From these simple, unspoken understandings, the very first seeds of government, law, and social hierarchy were planted. The story of civilization isn't just about great inventions and grand battles. It's also about the quiet evolution of rules, the invisible architecture that turned chaotic bands of individuals into structured human societies. The Section 4 as authority takes shape. How did the first leader come to power? It wasn't through a crown, a throne, or a grand declaration. It started much, much simpler. Imagine a small group of early humans. Life is too full of uncertainty. Who do you listen to when a storm is brewing? Or when two hunters argue over the biggest share of the catch? You listen to the person who's been right before, the one who can read the clouds, the one whose calm voice has settled arguments in the past. This is how authority began, not seized, but given. It was a system built on pure trust. Someone's opinion just carried more weight because experience proved it was valuable. Their decisions brought solutions. Their guidance led to survival. This wasn't a king or a chief in the way we think of them now. It was more like a trusted guide. Their authority was natural, organic, born from necessity. There was no ceremony, no election, just a shared understanding. Listening to this person helps us all. It was a practical solution to the chaos of daily life. But this simple solution had a profound, unintended consequence. As soon as one person's voice became the one everyone turned to, the group's dynamics shifted. Suddenly, not all voices were equal. There was the guide, and then there was everyone else. A hierarchy, even a very simple one, began to form. Equality, which had been the default state of the group, started to fade into the background. Think about it. If you were close to this trusted person, if you were their friend or family, you were naturally in a better position. You were safer, more secure. Your concerns were more likely to be heard. This wasn't a deliberate plot. It was just human nature. Proximity to influence brings its own benefits. This new structure wasn't seen as oppressive. It was justified by its results. It brought order. It provided protection. People followed the decisions because, simply put, it worked. The group was more successful. Arguments were resolved faster, and life felt a little less dangerous. Obedience became the new normal. And once a behavior becomes normalized, questioning it starts to feel risky, even dangerous. Why rock the boat when the boat is sailing smoothly? The authority that was once temporary a solution for a specific problem slowly became permanent. It was no longer just for emergencies. It was expected in everyday life. The shared process of making decisions together faded away. Power had found a home, a stable place to reside in one person or a small few. What started as simple, life-saving guidance had transformed. It was now about control. The system wasn't just about surviving the next winter. It was about maintaining the system itself. The leader, and those close to them, now had a vested interest in keeping things just the way they were. Their position, their influence, depended on Italiano. The focus shifted from the group's immediate needs to the preservation of the established order. This is a critical turning point in human history. Authority stopped being a tool for the group and started becoming a goal in itself. The structures built around this authority were designed to protect it. Rules were no longer just about fairness. They were about reinforcing the hierarchy. The leader's word was final, not just because it was wise, but because they were the leader. The justification changed from "this is what works" to "this is how it is done." This evolution from guide to ruler is a pattern we see repeated throughout history, in different cultures and on different scales. It happens in tribes, in kingdoms, and even in small communities. It's a natural process, but one with deep implications. The need for order and predictability is a powerful human drive, and we are often willing to trade a measure of our personal freedom for it. We give power to individuals we trust to create that order, but the nature of power is that it seeks to sustain itself. Once an authoritative structure is in place, it develops its own inertia. It creates roles, expectations, and a culture of obedience. Dismantling it becomes incredibly difficult. People become accustomed to the hierarchy, to having someone else make the hard decisions. The comfort of predictability can outweigh the desire for equal participation. And that's the final, crucial point. Once authority establishes itself, it rarely just disappears. It might change hands. It might evolve. It might be overthrown and replaced by a new authority. But the concept itself becomes a permanent fixture of society. It's like a seed that, once planted, grows into a tree that fundamentally changes the landscape, from a trusted voice around a campfire to the complex governments of today. The journey of authority is the story of humanity's ongoing struggle between freedom and order, equality and hierarchy. It began not with a thirst for power, but with a need for survival. Yet, in solving one problem, we created a whole new set of challenges that we are still grappling with to this day. The question was never whether we need leaders, but how we ensure that guidance doesn't become permanent control. That's a question we're still trying to answer. The section 5 is order replaces equality. Have you ever wondered why our world is so full of hierarchies? Why some people seem to have all the power, while others have very little? It wasn't always this way. Let's travel back in time to a pivotal moment in human history. A moment that explains everything about the world we live in today. This is the story of how order replaced equality, and how that single shift defined our destiny. In the earliest days of humanity, we were equals. Survival was a team sport. We hunted together, gathered together, and faced the dangers of the world as one. Your value wasn't determined by your birth, but by what you could contribute to the group's survival. Your ability to track an animal, find edible plants, or tend to the sick, that was your currency. There were leaders, of course, but their leadership was temporary, based on a specific task. Once the hunt was over, the leader was just another member of the tribe. This was a world of fluid, earned respect, a world of fundamental equality. But as our groups grew larger and more complex, a new challenge emerged. The need for stability, the unpredictable nature of early life, the constant threat of famine or attack created a deep-seated craving for certainty. We needed a way to manage resources, make quick decisions for the entire group, and organize a collective defense. Out of this need for stability, a new concept was born: permanent leadership. Someone had to be in charge. This is the moment everything changed. The moment we established permanent authority, equality began to wither away. Think about it. The person or small group in charge now controlled the food supply. They decided who got what and how much. They made the critical decisions that affected everyone's lives, from where to build a settlement to when to go to war. They organized protection, creating a class of warriors loyal to them. This concentration of control over resources, decisions, and protection created the very first power imbalance. Suddenly, some humans could shape the future, while everyone else had to adapt to the future that was shaped for them. A new skill became more valuable than hunting or gathering: proximity to power. Being friends with the leader, being part of their family, or showing unwavering loyalty became the surest path to a better life. Power was no longer earned through demonstrated ability. It began to be inherited and passed down through loyalty and bloodlines. This new system had its own logic. It rewarded obedience and punished dissent. If you followed the rules, did your assigned job, and never questioned the leadership, you were taken care of. You had a degree of safety and certainty. But if you resisted, if you questioned the distribution of resources or the fairness of a decision, you were seen as a threat to the stability of the entire group. You would be punished or cast out. And here's the critical trade-off that our ancestors made, perhaps without even realizing its profound, long-term consequences. They traded freedom for stability. They gave up a degree of their personal autonomy in exchange for a more predictable and secure existence. Order provided something that pure equality could not: a guarantee of food on a regular basis, protection from outsiders, and a clear structure for daily life. Compared to the constant uncertainty of a life of pure equality, the appeal of order was immense. Over generations, this new hierarchical structure began to feel normal, natural, even inevitable. The concept of being born equal faded from memory. Instead, people were born into specific roles. If your father was a farmer, you would be a farmer. If your mother was a servant to the ruling family, that would be your destiny too. The path of your life was no longer something you chose, but something you inherited. What began as a cooperative effort for mutual survival had slowly but surely transformed into a system of structured, inherited inequality. It's crucial to understand that this wasn't the rise of some cartoonish evil. It wasn't about a villainous leader plotting to subjugate the It was far more subtle and, in a way, more tragic. It was the rise of permanence. Initially, power was a tool for the survival of the group. The leader's authority was justified because it helped everyone stay alive. But over time, the nature of power shifted. It stopped serving survival alone and began serving itself. The primary goal of the powerful became to maintain and expand their own power. This fundamental shift is the bedrock upon which every civilization has been built. Every law, every empire, every religious institution, and every corporate structure we see today can trace its roots back to this ancient trade-off. The idea of a king, a president, a CEO, it all stems from that original decision to grant one person authority over the many for the sake of order. The laws that were written were designed to protect the structure, to formalize the hierarchy. The empires that were built were exercises in expanding that power structure over vast territories. The institutions we created, from temples to courts, all served to legitimize and reinforce the existing order. The day order replaced equality was the day humanity changed forever. And the most startling part, this ancient system is not a relic of the past. It is the invisible software that runs our modern world. We are still living within the framework created thousands of years ago. We are born into nations with established governments. We work in companies with clear hierarchies. We navigate social structures based on wealth and influence. We are still grappling with that original tension between the desire for individual freedom and the need for collective order. The struggles for civil rights, for democracy, for economic justice, all of these are, in essence, attempts to renegotiate the terms of that ancient bargain. They are attempts to reclaim some of the equality we lost in our quest for stability. It's a debate that has raged for centuries and continues to define our politics, our societies, and our very lives. So, the next time you look at the world and wonder why it is the way it is, remember this story. Remember the moment when our ancestors, faced with chaos, chose order. They made a choice that gave us cities, civilizations, and science. But it came at a cost. The cost was equality. Understanding this trade-off is the first step to understanding ourselves and the world we've built. And it begs the ultimate question: can we ever find a way to have both? Can we build a world that is both orderly and equal? That, perhaps, is the great challenge for the future of humanity. Thanks for watching. If this story made you think, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more deep dives into the human story, and share your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.